Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Rotor Talk Live, Season 9, Episode 3, DJI Knowns and Unknowns. I'm going to greet everybody, and then I have something special to say here. So give me a minute. Let's get going to that. And we got a full crew in here tonight. Let's see who we got. Drone Shots, Jody, USA Drone Flyer, welcome. CT Pirate, John, welcome. Dr. Ted, welcome. Drone Angles, welcome. See, RJ Redding, welcome. Let's see who else we got. Johnny Drone Flyer, welcome, Johnny. Sergeant Rock. Who else? Joni Oki, welcome. Brad Alston, welcome, Brad. Good to see you. USA Drone Flyer, Bud Bieber, welcome, Bud. I'm going to go through here, make sure I don't miss everybody. Wow, we got a great crew here tonight. Wow. Ron's going to be joining me here in just a little bit. DD Fellows, welcome. Casey Crime Fighter, welcome, my friend. Good to see you. Let's see who else. Greg Pittman, welcome, Greg. Wow, you guys really are packing the house in tonight. Wow, I'm amazed. Wow, going through everything here. Okay, all right, got a full crew in. You guys know about Warren Akarasho, and we're gonna have a little tribute later to him. I want to make sure that Ron's on so we can talk about that. It just that really hit me kind of hard, guys, and we'll talk. Like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. And then instead of having Steeler Nation, we're going to have Steeler Coach Search Nation tonight. How about that? Yeah, the coaching search is underway, and we're going to give some updates about that. So that's always a fun thing to talk about. Great football this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. So stay tuned for that. And thank you guys for tuning into that. There's an error in my title. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Eddie, for catching that. I'll get that corrected. Yeah, I'll get it corrected. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for catching that. I will note that down. In fact, I'm going to write that down right now. Thank you, Eddie. I really appreciate that. Yeah, just that's what you get for having two left hands here. All right. Okay. All right. Hope you guys. Well, there was also the National College Football Championship last night, which Indiana they beat Miami. I did not watch that. I am not a fan of either team. So, and then of course I got to see my Panthers. They played a great game this weekend, and then they did not play a great game last night. So, okay. All right. Actually got quite a bit of things to talk about tonight. Ron's going to join me here in a little bit. The first thing, and I must be slipping. Okay. I'm 67. So cut me a little slack. Usually I get all these articles out on Build a Drone Review Facebook group today. I have no idea. See, what I do is, and I'll give you a clue here. You get a little bit of a peek into Build a Drone Reviewer's prep work. What I do is I go through and I find these articles, and then I open up Notepad, okay, which is a perfect scratch pad on my desktop, okay. I open that up, and then I link the title of the article and the URL, and I post all of them over there, and it's meant to help me when I'm setting up the show, okay. And so I use it to help me to set up the show, but then I also remember later, as I've set everything up for this stream here, to go back out to Build a Drone Reviewer and also a group and page to get them out there. Okay. Well, I have no idea. Like I said, I'm 67 years old. So cut me a little slack on that one, guys. I have no idea. Ray Kelly, good to see you as well, too. So yeah, that's why that ended up happening, but I'll get them out there a little later. So stay tuned for all that. And Eddie, again, thank you for catching that. I have no idea. Okay. Like I said, see what you guys see what those of you who are younger have to look forward to. Okay. This is just fantastic. No. Okay. All right. First thing we're going to talk about tonight. Let me go ahead and get this up here. Okay. All right. Two Mini 4K or Flip. These DJI drone discounts make the choice tough. DJI is giving drone buyers plenty to think about right now. company's entry-level favorite, the DJI Mini 4K, is currently available at a noticeable discount, while the more advanced DJI Flip has also seen a meaningful price cut, okay? The Mini 4K is at $239. That's an incredible price. I don't think I've ever seen it that low, okay? The Mini 4K combo is also discounted to $359. That's a great price as well. The DJI Flip Flymore combo with RC2 screen controller, which is currently 15% off, dropping from $779 to $659. That's a $120 savings on a package aimed at users who want better image quality and more creative flexibility here. The Flip features and 1/3 inch CMOS sensor, noticeably larger than what you land on many entry-level models, allowing for sharper images and improved low light performance. It can record 4K at 60 frames per second, which is pretty incredible here, making a stronger option for creators who care more about motion, color, and detail. It includes the RC2 controller with its built-in screen, which is that is a fantastic deal here. Taken together, these discounts give buyers a rare moment of choice rather than compromise. Okay, so that's a great option for you if you want to consider both of those drones here. That's something, I've actually thought about the Flip a little bit, and because I know it really didn't sell well as far as, of course, we don't know sales numbers for DJI, but I think all in all, I don't think it sold real well. It has a very unique design, and people that have it have really kind of enjoyed it. One of the ones that I've seen, and some of the reviews that I've seen on it too. But again, with a drone like that, and also like with a Neo and Neo 2, you have to know its limitations, okay? And one of the big limitations is windy days are big for those drones. So yeah, be inclined to do that. The Mini 4K is a great drone. I had the Spectre equivalent of that. That was a fantastic drone. A lot of bang for the buck. You do get quite a bit with that. So, you have your choice as far as that's concerned. So, it flies crappy as heck with a controller. However, the video and pictures come out as phenomenal. I use it as a following drone. I like it. That's a good thing, Kate. Thank you, Casey Cronfighter. I appreciate that. That's always good to know. So, it's some food for thought. I mean, if you really want to go out there and check that out, I would do that personally. For me, I mean, if I have the money, I would probably look at something like that. But in my book, I would consider the Neo 2 because that's a follow me drone as well. I've had very good success with that. And unfortunately, segue here. I got another article and we're going to talk about here about some more good DJI deals coming up. But this past weekend, I was going to try to go out and fly. Saturday was a gorgeous day, but it was too busy. We had so much to do and got that done. So I was going to go out and fly on Sunday. Okay. Our temperatures took one of these here. And then if you've seen any of the weather reports up in the Panhandle, up by Tallahassee and so forth in northern Florida, they had snow on the ground. Okay. Yeah. Sunday was brutal. The temperatures yesterday went down all day. I think the high was like 50 yesterday and it got to like 35 overnight. So we woke up, our furnace was running this morning. So, oh joy. So that's, like I said, after living down here for as long as I have, about 15 years or so, I really think your blood chemistry may change a little bit. I don't know. Doctors may say, I don't know, but it feels colder. And the reason it does feel colder is because of all the moisture in the air. That's something that I found out early on. So, okay. All right. Next article here I'm going to bring up. With all these deals, nothing is off of DJI's list in terms of being able to talk about deals. And one of the things that has been on sale is the Mini 5 Pro, now available on Amazon starting at $759. Now, this was article yesterday, okay? On current Amazon pricing, the Mini 5 Pro is $759. The Flymore combo is $959. That's with the RCM3. The Flymore combo with the RC2 is $1,099. And the Flymore combo plus with the extended batteries is $1,349. Okay. And, it is, there's no doubt it's the best mini drone that's out there. Okay. Bar none. I mean, you You can't argue with that at all. Okay. Absolutely. Cannot argue with that at all. And I absolutely thoroughly enjoy it. It has an incredible feature set on it. I think it rivals pretty much like an Air 3S kind of a thing. All right. And I really have really enjoyed being able to take that outside. And it talks about what configuration you should buy. Okay. For me, you guys know I bought it, but I went ahead and I got just the Mini 5 Pro. Okay. It's with the RCN 3-in-1 battery because I bought some extra batteries. I bought another hub to back up things. So because this is such a great drone and a great deal. So this is something I would highly recommend you guys checking out. I mean, it's available on Amazon. It just, there's the listing right there. And always verify ships from Amazon before completing your order. This ensures you are covered by standard Prime protections rather than dealing with third-party return policies. Okay. And kudos to Hey Kestelou, whoever put this article out on Drone XL. Here's Ron. Hey Ron, how are you, sir?
Hey Bill, I'm doing well tonight. See, you found a good deal in the Mini 5. That's actually been around like a couple of weeks now. That 759 on that base kit.
Yeah, I got one for that, the 759 from Amazon, and I got it in like 2 days. I mean, it was like boom, just like that. So,
I saw. Did you see the drone DJ article today? The Flip and the Mini 4K are like that kind of. I mean, they've been that low before, but their Mini 4K's 239 and the Flip's down to 369 in the base kit.
Yeah, and I just finished up an article regarding that. So
sorry,
yeah, that's right.
Repeat here. Yeah.
No. And also want to let you know we're going to have Steeler Coach Search Nation tonight. So stay tuned for that.
The off season begins already, Bill. Or it's never.
And I got and I have some updates on that I want to share. So that's going to be real interesting. And of course, we'll talk a little bit of the playoffs this weekend too, because there were some great games out
there. Bill,
so.
we both have a Mini 5K, so the Mini 5 Pro, so we know how good a drone that is. But I have no experience with the Mini 4K or the Flip. Do you, Bill?
With the Flip, no. And I had the Spectre Mini, which is really the Mini 4K. Okay. So I did have experience. The only thing for me, as I've said before, is Ron. I'm so used to having the RC2 controller. Having to hook up a phone, it's just a real pain in the rear end anymore to do that.
Yeah, that's why I'm all in with that talking. But you know what? I'm one of those people. Those RCN3s don't go to waste me. When I'm going out, when I don't know I'm going to fly a drone in particular, I'm just going out or whatever. I like to take the standard controller because it fits in a little bag or whatever. I don't have to take a drone case. It can actually fit in the cargo pocket of some of my pants. So I still take that regular controller because, again, sometimes I may fly, I may not, or whatever, and I want to go out compact.
Yeah, that's absolutely perfect for that. I mean, that's what that is, and it really does.
And when you stick it in the back with other stuff, Bill, you don't have to worry about the screen getting scratched or anything like that or whatever. So you could rough it up a little bit because if you take the sticks off and put them underneath, there's really nothing that's going to get messed up. It just throw it in the bag.
Well, one of the things that I recommend to people in your instance, okay, is to buy, and they sell them on Amazon, and it's different. And most of these companies are made in China because the darn thing smells when you get it. And you got to let it out. But it's these cases that are specifically designed just for the drone. And then just for the controller, okay? And they're very small, okay? They're very manageable, very easy to put in maybe like a small bag, and those are ideal. Like, for example, if you're going traveling, like whenever I would go up to Ohio, that's what I do is I get one of those to be able to do that because the hard shell protects it, but yet it's not a big, bulky kind of case that you have to carry either in addition or try to pack in your overnight bag, which is a real pain in the butt to do that.
I think it was the Mavic Pro 1, this is called the Mavic Pro. I had a case that just fit the drone and just fit the controller, and I could throw that in with my regular luggage because they were protected in there, but they didn't take up a big spot or I wasn't carrying a dedicated case for the drone.
Exactly. Okay. And that's what I do with this. Whenever I go travel, because I don't want to carry even some, the Start RC cases are great. And a lot of them instances, they're smaller, but I don't want to carry that extra case. And if I would say to put that in my laptop backpack, would make that extremely heavy. So I don't want to do that. So having those small cases in my overnight bag where there's room for it, it makes a whole lot of sense, and it makes it real easy. And it's easy to stuff some batteries and a charger in there. So so that's a good go. But they're really giving you a lot of food for thought. Also, too, and I didn't have I had the article, but I don't know where it's at. But Amazon also has on sale the Mini 4 Pro. Okay, and there's I think the whole Fly More combo is $759 for that. So that kind of gives you some food for thought. I mean, if you want to get the best and the brightest, the Mini 5 Pro is available. But for it's the same price. You get the Mini 4 Pro Fly More combo and the Mini 5 Pro, just the drone itself, for both the same price, $759. So it's like, what do you do in an instance like that? I mean, it depends on what you're looking for, I guess.
And first, if you're looking just for camera quality, I think I don't have the flip, so I can't. Somebody's telling me in chat, who is it here? They were telling me. Casey Crimefires is telling me how good it is, how he likes it. But he makes mention, the Mini, it has the same camera as the Mini 4 Pro, so you could buy. I think you could buy the Flyware combo for the flip like $100 cheaper than that price you quoted for the Mini 4 Pro. And get the same camera quality. Now I know it doesn't fly like the Mini 4 Pro, but it does all that fouling stuff like the little Neos do or whatever. So it depends. It kind of depends on what kind of flying you're going to do, Bill.
That's true. That's very true. And also too, understand, your environment that you're flying into, because if it's a windy day, it's going to negate drones like the Flip and the Neo too.
But of course, if you're going to fly in a wooded environment, or kind of an environment where you can easily crash, your Mini 4 Pro's unprotected propellers are going to get caught and stuff, and the drone's going to go down the ground. Where you're flying with a flip in this environment, it's just going to kind of bounce off things. So again, it's like a tale of two cities there. What kind of flying are you doing?
Yeah, it's really, that's a really good point, Ron, is to really kind of know the environment that you're flying in. Because, if you're going to be flying in a wooded area, then you want to investigate that possibility. Also, too, and I have yet to get them because I ordered them from China, but the prop guards for the Mini 5 Pro are on their way for me, and I'm going to be doing a test on that as well. So if you're flying like in a wooded area, and be aware, because, and some of the reviewers have pointed this out, okay, you're not going to have normal flight characteristics when you put these on the Mini 5 Pro, okay? That's just the way it is. And you got to understand that. You got to take that into account. And we're going to be having the article coming up about some winter flying tips. I know I talked about it last week, but I really kind of want to bring it up again because there's a couple of key points, because I know, and in fact, I think we're going to go, that's an article that I have coming up next year. Yeah, we're going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and shift to that right now, because there's a couple of things that I think a lot of people, they're all gung-ho about, they think, and true, one of the most important things about winter flying is keeping things warm, like the drone itself and also your battery, and not flying until you absolutely are getting it outside until you're absolutely ready to go. But one of the big things here, and I know this article talks about it, and we're gonna get into it. Battery management, cold is the enemy, and that's very true. And you want to keep them as warm as possible. In fact, keep them in your pockets where they stay very warm inside of a car. The second thing here is your environmental assessment. Snow just isn't snow. Okay. Now, I want to stop right here and remind people of something. Okay. If you have a winter morning out there, let's say that, and it's not really snowing, but it's cold and you see some condensation out there. Okay. And you guys all know what condensation is. What can happen with that? And also to realize, when the higher that you go up, the more chances you're going to have some precipitation. All right. That condensation will get on your propeller blades, even though they're spinning. All right. And the big enemy here, okay, and this is also too with airplanes, is ice. Okay. Because ice can build up on wings. That's why they defrost your plane before it takes off. And the planes also are equipped with heaters on the wings to make sure that, snow and ice doesn't accumulate on them. Well, it's the same thing with your drone, although you don't have that on your drone. Okay. You understand that those water droplets can freeze on your props, and a lot of bad things can happen with that, almost always resulting in a crash or something like that. So, not only would be wary of your environment, whether it's snowing or not, but also too in a condition where it's like you might have a mist out there, or it might be foggy out there and it's cold. Okay. Those are prime times for props to freeze on there. And also too, freezing can also affect the drone itself as well, because if it blocks like some of your intakes for cooling the drone off, it can overheat. So, you got to really kind of pay attention to that, because, flying your drone in the wintertime, it's more than just checking your battery. Like we said here, flight control tips, smooth winds in winter. Okay. And that means, you don't want to fly in sport mode. You don't want to go ahead and do all kind of crazy maneuvers out there. You want to go out there, get your shot, get your video in, and come back. All right. You're not out there to joyride, to have a bunch of fun, to see how far you can take it. No, this is not the time to do that. The time you want to go out there, get your shot, get your pictures, and come back home. That's the deal for that. Okay. Proper device storage. What you do after flying matters. And this is real. This really kind of came to a head for me, Ron, when we met at the beach. Okay. Because that was really the first time I ever flew a drone at a beach. And one of the things that I did right away when I got home was I had an air duster. Okay. And I opened my drone up and I got my air duster in there and I went throughout the entire drone. Okay. Because sand is a real enemy of drones. All right. And that's one of the things that I've always done is after I come back in from flying, and vis-a-vis whether, I'm just flying over here or I'm flying at the beach or another environment. Okay. I get that air duster out and I clean it out anyway. And the other thing that I do is I get a microfiber cloth, and maybe a little moist or damp, not soaking wet, but I go over the entire drone. Okay. And then the other thing that I do is I let it sit out for about an hour or so. All right. Because, being in the air in the house, having air circulating through it, if there's any moisture in there, it's going to dry it out. I just don't fold it up right away and pack it. Right? These are some other things that you kind of should know, but a lot of times, you just are anxious to get it packed it back up and put away. But no, I don't do that. Sometimes I'll leave my drone out for most of the day before I do that, which is probably an even better thing here. Okay?
And Bill, I also don't, if the battery's warm, I kind of let them out and cool. I don't immediately shut them up in a case or whatever. I'll let them get back to room temperature or whatever. But back to our Florida thing, we were using landing pads that day, so we weren't landing in sand or anything.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Ron and I had used some landing
pads. But as you mentioned, sand's constantly blowing at the beach, whether you use a landing pad or whatever, it's always blowing. So, there's no way to avoid some sand getting on every device you take to the beach, whether it's your drone, cell phone, doesn't matter. Everything gets sand on at the beach.
Exactly. Now, conversely speaking, there was also another article too, and this one was by Russ, and this was also kind of in the same line of thinking here. And I think we've kind of been talking about this as well, how to make your DJI drone last 5 to 7 years with these essential maintenance tips. Okay. And it's not necessarily, okay. And, I'll stop, and it's not necessarily maintenance, but it's also some of the things that you do. Okay.
Best practices, we could call it, Bill.
Yes, that's perfect, Ron. That's absolutely perfect. Okay. And, one of the things, fly smooth and not aggressive. And we talked a little bit about that in the article about winter flying is, you don't want to get out there and, fly sport mode all the time, put the pedal to the metal and really push things with it, because the more that you do that, number one, the chances are greater. When you're in sport mode, it shuts off a lot of your sensors and obstacle avoidance, and bad things can happen when that happens.
In other words, Bill, you don't need to be full throttle all the time if there's not a reason for it to be full throttle.
Exactly.
It's like a car. You wouldn't take your truck out and put the gas pedal all the way down for the entire drive.
Exactly. Okay. You don't really want to push those vehicles. In fact, they talk about a break-in period with a vehicle of about 1,000 miles and to vary the speed a lot. And I do that. I really do pay attention and do that. And I think my vehicles have responded really well to something like that.
You don't want your pedal all the way to the metal unless they ask you to drive in a Daytona 500 or something.
Exactly. Well, or driving on the interstate here in Florida the same way. So anyway.
Sometimes the interstates up here, they're so crowded, you do your slowest driving on the interstate because it's bumper to bumper.
Yeah, well, we don't have the crowding problem here so much as we have the speed problem down here. And Russ also, number 2 point, wind is your drone silent enemy. There are going to be days where you don't think you have a chance. your drone can handle 25-mile-an-hour winds. DJI drones are incredibly tolerant to wind, but just know if you're going to be doing that on a regular basis, over a long period of time, there's gonna it's going to cause your motors to wear out faster. All right. And you know, and that's a good point that Russ brings out is about that. If you're flying constantly in like 25-mile-an-hour or more winds, your motors have to work twice as hard. Okay. Because they're trying to maintain and keep the drone at a level balance in order for you to get your shots and video. So, and the compensating for that in turn, you know, those motors are going to wear out sooner. So understand there's a trade-off with something like that. Now, we already talked about heat management matters more than you think. And, you know, again, you know, to my two of my best tips are stay in the vehicle until you're just ready to fly. Same with your batteries, and either keep your batteries in your pocket and zippered, or keep them in your vehicle. And if your vehicle's on, all the better as far as that's concerned.
Bill, heat management, heat actually means don't be flying, you know, in real hot temperatures all the time too, without letting the drone.
Exactly. Okay.
That has to be something you'd be more concerned about in Florida. Now, let me just, I know I don't want to catch off too much. I'll make a big decision, but I live in a climate. Believe me, I'm not as cold as some of the people in Minnesota and the real northern states. But you know, in the winter, when I go to fly, it could be anywhere from 32 to 40. And, you know, I mostly just drive the car right up to where I'm going to fly. I pull the, you know, the drone out of the hatch or whatever the car, slot the battery and get up there. I almost never have any problem with batteries not being, you know, not being ready to go, whatever. I mean, some people do, but it's not like I hike a mile outside before I fly the drone or whatever. You know, like I just get it right up in the air, get it going. I've never had any problem with flying in cool weather conditions. But again, I understand maybe somebody's out there hiking the trail for a couple miles, you know, and then they put the drone up. But again, if you're just popping out of your car or whatever, putting it up in the air, I've had no issues.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. Now, you know, this is kind of a no-brainer here, but you know, and I want to, you know, and I'm pointing these things out because a lot of times these are people, these are obvious to us, but you know, it's to put best practices in place and to have something in place all the time. I mean, if you physically need to have a checklist after you bring your drone in every time, or you know, on a weekly basis, things that you need to do for your drone, do that. Okay, put an Excel spreadsheet together. Be creative about that. It doesn't really cost a whole lot to do that. Now, one of these things that's probably one of the most important things is drone battery health. All right, and you know, one of the rules is, you know, if you're going to store your drone long term, meaning I'm going to say maybe 3 or 4 weeks before you use it again, you want to make sure that you keep those batteries at about 60%. All right, and a lot of the modern charging options available have that feature. I know some of the aftermarkets that I've purchased out on Amazon have that feature available, and they also have a lot of great information. For example, I have a great one for the Air 3S, and it provides a complete breakdown of each battery, you know, where things stand with that, including the actual battery temperature. And I bought a very similar one for the Mavic 4 Pro and for the Mavic 3 Pro. So, you know, it really pays to keep an eye on what your battery health is, and to keep these charged and keep them at least at that 60% level so they won't drain.
Yeah,
I know
you don't
Michael
have to
Wright.
manage as much in the modern drones, Bill. The batteries mostly, if you don't use them for however amount of days, 2 weeks, whatever, they slowly discharge themselves. So whatever they think the storage charge should be on their own.
Right.
So you don't really have to manage like the old batteries. What you want to be careful of is don't come home with a battery, say at 10, well, under 20%, and just put in the case and not, you know, do anything. That's the battery you want to either charge up to, like you said, 60%, or just charge all the way back up to 100% and let it slowly discharge back into its storage rate or whatever.
Exactly. You know, and one of the other things with that, I mean, we had Michael Wright on last week, and he talked about how he still maintains his batteries for his Phantom 4 Pro. Okay. And how he's been very wise in doing that. And he says his batteries are still in great shape. And look how old the Phantom 4 Pro is. I mean,
I sold the Air 2S this summer, and I had, you know, I had batteries for it, and I had batteries left over from the Air 2 or whatever, and those batteries were in perfect condition. And those drones were from like, I mean, the Air 2 may have been from 2000 or 1999. The Air 2S like a year later, and those batteries are perfect just by doing. And they weren't smart back then either. They didn't have the discharge the home thing or whatever. But if you handle them right, everybody thinks old batteries are gone in a couple of years. They are if you don't take care of them. But if you take care of them, you have a good chance of getting 5 years or better, like in case of my batteries and Michael Wright's batteries.
Absolutely. We're at the point here. We're going to be talking about DJI knowns and unknowns. And the first thing that I want to talk about is this, and DJI Pocket 4 and DJI Avata 360 release updates. And
Okay.
I have an article up here. Okay. I had to go out to X because there was nothing on Drone XL and there was nothing out on Drone DJ for this. But I want to go ahead.
It's been all quiet on the Western Front of these products for a while.
Yeah, it has been. But there was a little bit out here on X, on formerly known as Twitter here. Okay. And if you're out on X, you want to follow, there's another one called DJI Rumors. You do want to go ahead and follow them here. Okay. Talked about, if you really want to get a great deal also too, the Pocket 3 Creator Combo is on sale right now. So that would be something, and it's on Amazon. So you can definitely do that. Here are some more pictures on the Avata 360. And again, here's some more right there with the Creator Combo right there as well too. And also and that's about it as far as
maybe it's not rumors, but one of the sites was already talking about a mid-February release now for the Avata 360.
Right. I had heard that as well, which really kind of coincides because if you look at it right now, tomorrow is kind of like the 20th. So we're getting towards the tail end of January. And that would make a lot of sense as far as that's concerned. I think, and this is just me, Ron, I do believe that these, like Amazon and whoever, they have them in stock. Okay. Maybe not necessarily Amazon, but our overseas places like in South Korea and Japan and China, I believe they're already stocked up with the Avata 360.
And doesn't DJI have a history of releasing drones in February? Like I know what do you call it? The DJI Air, the first Air came out in February. I believe the Flip came out in February last year. I believe the Mini 4K came out in February. So they have a history of putting drones out in February, not necessarily in January.
Exactly. Well, and I think too, the other thing that you need to realize, Chinese New Year is coming up. All right. And it's right at the end of January, beginning of February. And it's a full week. They're gone. Okay. There's no emails. They don't answer anything. So if you need to do something, especially with some of these companies over in China, especially like either AliExpress or Banggood or something, you want to get your orders in before then because they're not going to process anything. All right. And don't go out on eBay and order something from somebody from China expected to ship because it'll sit there for a week before it even gets out the door. So, that's something to keep in mind during this time period.
Flamini has some information in the chat there. It was the most recent comment. Now it's second last. But what he's telling us is Chinese New Year is February 17th.
Oh, okay.
So maybe Avata 360 released before that.
Thank you for that update, John.
But what you're saying, Bill, is if it's not released by the 17th, forget it for a whole week or whatever. It won't be out between the.
Yeah, I mean, it may be listed out there, but it's going to sit there, especially if you're buying from somebody in China. Okay,
and Bill, that you wouldn't want to get the drone right before the Chinese New Year because if you need support, they wouldn't be available.
That's right, exactly. I mean, and that's something you need to keep in mind when you're considering this. If you're going to go ahead, if you've already made your mind up, you want to get the Avata 360, which I know a lot of you have, and was just cause, and I kind of am in that same boat as well too. You're going to need to either get it immediately, or if it's after the 17th, you got to wait a week. I mean, that's just the way things are with Chinese New Year's because they really shut down. And John, thank you for posting that. Appreciate that.
Marcus wants to see you at the South Florida drone meetup.
I sure hope so. As long as, crossing fingers that my beautiful wife has no Vertigo episodes, we sure should be there. So that shouldn't be a problem. Year of the Horse. Okay. Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. All right. Very interesting. Thank you, Marcus, for that comment as well. Okay. So that's where things stand on the Pocket 4 and the Avata 360. I wanted to make sure to get you guys.
You think we'll see a February release for the Pocket 4, or maybe they'll push that back even further, March, April?
I'm going to say you might see a back-to-back release, meaning 1 week you'll see the Avata 360 and next week you'll see the Pocket 4. But they had talked about with a Pocket 4 that it may come, like in March. So I'd seen some articles about that.
I mean, I don't know if the Chinese do this, but a lot of American retailers over the years have released stuff like, a month after the tax refunds hit. They don't want to release the products till the tax refunds are hitting.
That's true. That's very true. Now, the next article that I want to talk about, and this is a great article, and this was put out there by Hai Kestelu, and it's called Opinion. DJI and the American Drone Delusion. We're not catching up. We're falling behind. Okay, because the whole, and I don't. All you guys know what's been going on and the whole deal with everything, and I'm not going to go over that. But the whole goal of what the United States is trying to do is trying to catch up to the Chinese. Well, Hai Kestelu is saying good luck and God bless, because that's probably not going to happen. And I have a tendency to agree with him. I did read through the article, and he does raise a lot of great points here, Ron. Okay. The reality, DJI commands 70 to 90% of the global consumer drone market and 83.48 of all drone detections in operational theaters worldwide, according to VE Drones 2025 data. The innovation gap. China accounts for 79% of all global drone patents granted in 2024 and controls 87% of all drone patent filings since 2015. DJI alone has 18,937 patents globally. The manufacturing chasm. The entire U.S. drone industry, roughly 500 companies combined, produces under 100,000 units annually. Meanwhile, Ukraine alone produces 2 million FPV drones per year through decentralized workshops. The source, the opinion piece, draws from 8 years of drone industry reporting, government documents, and on-the-record statements from industry executives here, all right? DJI drones succeed because they deliver on 5 pillars simultaneously: capability, affordability, availability, reliability, and ease of use, okay? But there's a 6th factor that makes DJI's position even more entrenched: ecosystem lock-in, okay? DJI just doesn't build drones. They build an entire ecosystem that creates massive switching costs. Their mobile SDK allows third-party developers to build specialized applications on top of DJI hardware. Hundreds of software companies, from managing platforms like Drone Deploy and Pixel 4D to inspection solutions like DroneBase, have built their business around DJI integration here. Then there's the payload ecosystem. DJI drones employ thermal cameras from FLIR, and it goes into some things like that. And there's some things, and again, you guys can go ahead and read this article as you will. How wide is the innovation gap between the DJI and US manufacturers? Okay. Battery technology, DJI drones achieve 40 to 46 minute flight times. Most American alternatives offer 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. Obstacle avoidance, DJI's omnidirectional obstacle sensing has become table stakes for professional operations. Many blue UAS alternatives have limited or no obstacle avoidance. All right. Camera system, DJI's integration of Hasselblad cameras, mechanical shutters, advanced image processing, and the AI subject recognition represents years of development the competitors simply haven't matched. Price to performance, a leaked DoD Department of Interior memo revealed that blue UAS drones cost up to 14 times more than comparable DJI platforms, while reducing the department's sensor capacity by 95% and meeting only 20% of mission requirements. Okay. DJI employs over 14,000 people in 2024, with 25% of this workforce dedicated solely to product development. Okay. What happened to all the companies that try to compete with DJI? There's a litany here: GoPro, Sony, Intel, Parrot, and Skydio. Who actually benefits from DJI restrictions? And I'll let you guys go ahead and read that as well. Do counter arguments hold up to scrutiny? The AI leapfrog theory, and again, these are things I think I'm going to best leave for you guys to do that. The privacy premium theory, the Ukrainian model. Why can't the United States just build its own drone components? And there's a good article there. That's a good part of this article right here. Again, this is an article. If you're going to read something, I would definitely recommend reading this. And then Drone XL's take here. Okay.
No, it's a great article, but again, it's almost 95% references enterprise drones and above or whatever. Nobody ever, none of these articles ever talk about consumer drones from U.S. drone makers. It's all enterprise level talk.
Right, and that's a great point, Ron, because when they refer to Blue UAS, that is the framework that the United States government have approved drones for use for. But those, again, as Ron pointed out, these are enterprise drones. These are not consumer level drones. I mean, this article is written very well, but it was also, keep in mind, like Ron said, this was written from a perspective of enterprise level drones. Not
enterprise level drones are important. I'm not trying to diminish them all. They save lives, everything like that. But I mean, you and I don't buy enterprise drones. I mean, I love to see enterprise drones that use doing good, but we're buying consumer drones. And the question I got to ask you, Bill, is any of these American drone companies, I'm not going to name them by name or whatever, but any of the whoever from 1 to a dozen drone companies in the U.S. who are supposedly going to build drones, does any of them have one whiteboard anywhere in their offices where they have a whiteboard with a consumer drone on it?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, because and that is a great point, Ron. And one of the things that people need to remember here is the big money maker for these companies, all right, are not consumer drones. They're commercial drones. Okay, they make a lot of money. DJI makes a lot of their money, much more money on consumer than commercial, or on commercial than consumer, but they still take care of the consumer segment as well too. All right, so that puts them in a very unique position to capture the consumer market. All right, these other drone companies that Ron talked about, okay, almost every single one of them, they're Blue UAS approved. They're for enterprise and for government contracts, for first responders and that type of thing. They're not geared at all towards consumers. But I think the crux of the article here, at the end, the whole thing that Hyde does point out that applies to both here is, the American drone companies trying to catch up to DJI. That would be regardless of whether it was consumer or enterprise level, Ron. American companies are light years behind DJI in terms of being able to build these platforms at a reasonable price and sell them at a reasonable cost, because these costs have absolutely skyrocketed. And when they get to the point, and I'm just going to put this out there, when they get to the point to be able to build, say, consumer drones, if a company does decide to go that route and to sell them here in the United States, all right, those costs are going to be significantly more than a comparable DJI drone. I mean, it's just going to be that. And conversely, like the article says here, again, the performance and the specs that you'll get out of that drone will be less than DJI's counterpart. That's just going to happen. That's just part of all this game here, Ron. Part of all that's going on here. But it's a good article, and I think you guys need to read it and take it in from the perspective. Understand, while it really is kind of geared towards enterprise level drones, keep in mind too that a lot of what they're saying also applies to consumer drones as well too. So,
we've seen already, like at the bottom level of drones, like say the mini drones, DJI mini drones, companies such as not Alltel, but Potensic, Fimi, Hubson, it's a whole bunch of Roku. They've already nipped the heels. They're kind of making kind of a rival to DJI's cheapest drones. And I'm not saying they're good, but they're kind of competing, right? But outside of competing at DJI's lowest level, nobody else, even among the Asian countries, have really done anything. There's no competition to the Air series or whatever, or the Mavic series or whatever, or Inspire. When these overseas companies, other Asian, Chinese companies compete, they compete at the very lowest price point DJI has. Alltel, which again has been around a long time, maybe not as long as DJI, but longer than most. I mean, they did kind of compete for a while with their little Nano series and then their bigger series of drones, but of course they've also got out of the consumer game.
Exactly here. Now, we did go over this article last week, and this is from Drone DJ. And one of the things U.S. Commerce Department backs off FCC states firm, and then backing off of this, because a number of people have brought up the fact, okay, that you probably heard the phrase "the sword of Damocles hanging over your head," and it would be very appropriate in this instance because what they're talking about is the Commerce Department backed off its ruling, and we covered that last week and we talked about that. But the FCC still has the option, and if I want to call it a nuclear option, I'll call it a nuclear option, where they can retroactively ban everything. All right. And I mean, everything that we have now, they haven't done that. I don't want to cause a widespread panic and, saying like H.G. Wells, did, on his famous radio program, with the Martians attacking and saying that.
Or Orson Welles.
Orson Welles. I'm sorry.
It was H.G. Wells' story. It was H.G. Wells' story.
H.G. Wells' story. Orson Welles.
Radio guy. Yeah.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you. I appreciate that. Having Mars coming attack. This isn't like that. Okay. But I want to point this out. This is something to be aware of. All right. I don't think it's going to come down to this, because I think at the bottom line, I think probably what's going to end up happening, and this is just my gut feeling on this, Ron, I think what's going to happen here is I think the government's had a big win, okay, because they're not going to be preventing any new DJI drones from coming into the United States, the ones that haven't been approved by the FCC, all right? But if you look from the catalog that will be available, including the Avata 360 and Pocket 4, and go backwards, okay, there's a tremendous amount of product out there. And I have to believe one of the things too is, I don't know what market share the United States has. Again, we have no idea. I've heard
DJI is a private company; they don't have to release these figures.
Exactly. They don't release their statistics, so we don't really know. I've heard at times 15%. I've heard 25%. I've heard 10%. Of worldwide sales. I don't know, but it is a significant part of those sales. And I think what's going to happen here, all right, you're going to have a status quo where the United States government will just say, we're done with DJI. That's it. We're not going to do anything else. But we're not going to stop. You can go out there from your eBays and your Amazons and everything and still buy drones that we have approved. All right. And I think what DJI is going to keep doing, I think you'll see longer life cycles for these products that are out right now.
I was going to answer that, Bill. The most important question is the current drones that DJI can still sell in the U.S. Will they, usually these products have an end of life or whatever. Will DJI extend the end of life to their current line of drones that go beyond a normal cycle to keep, as long as they keep seeing sales coming from the U.S.?
Yeah. And Joni Oki puts up a good thing here. To Trump meets with Xi in April, things might change. And it may change, and it may be very much for the better, okay?
Of course, I can't see either one of them having DJI drones at the top of their talk list, but I hope I'm wrong on that.
Who knows, okay? And it may be part of their negotiations. And if China needs more, say, like rice and wheat and barley and things like that, and Trump can maybe also get like those rare minerals that are only found in China, packaged in with something with DJI, so be it. But we don't know, and that's beyond the scope of this show and everything, and I don't want to go there for that. So, one of the things that I want to do right now, I'm going
to say, don't what do you call it? Cross your fingers out there.
Cross your fingers and cross your toes and say your prayers as far as that's going to be concerned. This really hit me very hard, and I know for Ron too, and all of you out in the drone community, because every day for the last, or every show for the last, I don't know how many years, the very first person every week who dropped in the chat, usually a half hour, I start getting things on at 7:30 or so, was Warren Akarasho. Okay, and for those of you who don't know, Warren was 70 and he passed away last week, and I don't know the circumstances or details behind that, and I don't know if you talked about that last night, Ron. But
Johnny had his obituary, but I'm not sure if it said what the cause of death was.
Okay, because it may have been a heart attack. I don't know, but we've lost him, and we've lost a great friend. And one of the things that I can say, personally speaking, from my perspective, and seeing the comments that he's put out there week after week. And also, when I was on Drone, when I'm on Drone Nation in the chat and seeing him, he always put, it's either something very humorous, to get people to laugh and to lighten up a little bit, or he would put some very insightful, very good comments out there. They weren't meant to agitate. They were meant for you to think on. They were meant to really cause you to say, like, maybe that makes some sense. Maybe that might happen. And he was excellent at all those. Now, I do know from what I've seen, I think Bob Dempsey had him on his show maybe last year once.
And the
And I
only
think
the
that was
only time he ever appeared on a live show.
Yeah, that was the only time. And God bless you, Bob, for having him on. That was great. And maybe you can go back through some of Bob's shows to be able to watch that with
Bob
Warren.
he just put a tribute video up the other day where he put that clip in, so you can just go watch Bob's most recent video and you'll see it.
Thank you, Ron. That's great.
And Marcus put his Warren's obituary in the chat here.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. I appreciate that. I mean, he was. We never, a lot of us never met him, but I feel like we all knew him. And
he was supposed to come to the South Florida drone meetup a couple years ago, but he wasn't there.
That would have been real nice to be able to have met him. But a loss in the drone community is all of our loss. Okay, because this is one thing. It doesn't matter if we're from Timbuktu or Florida or New Jersey or Idaho or wherever, okay, or over in the UK. It doesn't matter. This is something that unites all of us, okay? And, we get excited and we're passionate about drones. Warren was like that. He really enjoyed the show. He enjoyed interacting with people on the show.
And Warren had his own YouTube channel. He put out videos regularly.
Wow. See, I didn't know that. Yeah. I did not know that.
His face was on camera, but he was flying drones.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go out there and check that out. So, and I hope you all will do the same as well. Did he have a Facebook profile?
I do not know if he did. I don't know one way or the other.
Okay, all right.
He did have a YouTube channel. He did post videos, like I said, of him flying drones. You won't see his face on the channel, but you will see him flying drones.
And yeah, here's that. Thank you very much, Marcus, for posting that. It's a privilege and an honor and a blessing, I think. And Ron would say the same thing, and I know Marcus as well, and DeMarco. Every week being able to come on and to do these shows with you guys, we connect. We're not always physically together. We do have that opportunity coming up, the South Florida Drone Meetup, and I hope this prompts some of you to decide to push you over the edge to go to something like that, because it's important for us to get together. It's important to spend time together. Yeah, everybody wants to fly their drones at the meetup. And you know what? The great thing is rubbing shoulders with everybody.
Some years I never take a drone off that day.
Exactly. That's one of the things here that I think a lot of us will realize. So RIP Warren, thank you for spending time on our channel. Thank you for the great comments. Thank you for the humor. We really have enjoyed that. We're going to miss you greatly. And it was hard signing in tonight and not seeing your comment. I mean, I'm going to say that really kind of hit me hard not seeing that tonight.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We're going to move on.
You always come first to me here. You always
exactly
in the chats to me.
And I think we all can say the same thing here. All right, this is the portion of the show. Okay, it's not Steeler Nation. It's Steeler Coach Search Nation tonight. Okay. Now, the first thing I want to talk about were some updates for the Steelers. They interviewed Brian Flores today, the Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator. He was actually brought in for an interview. Now, they're going to do some Zoom interviews with some candidates as well, too. I did read that. Now, the one candidate that I think that has really stood out among all the other ones, all right, Sean McDermott from the Buffalo Bills. All right.
He's interviewed already with him?
Well, no, but there's a lot of heavy talk about him doing that because, Buffalo's blue collar working ethic kind of town.
He's from outside of Philadelphia, so he's a PA guy.
Right. He's a PA guy. I think he would be a perfect fit for the Steelers. I think he would fit in very well as far as that's concerned. I would. That's on my list. I would like that. Okay. Now,
Bill, I don't hold that loss against him to the who did he lose to on Sunday?
The Broncos.
Broncos, because I'm one of those people that pass that turned into interception. The same play happened exactly the next day in the Rams-Bears game.
Yep.
And guess what? It was the Rams receiver's ball, whatever.
Yep.
Same play, different call. And Richard Sherman, TV announcer and retired All-Pro defensive back for the Seattle Seahawks. He already said, I'm a defensive back. I always want to see us get the ball, but he said we knew like a dual possession goes to the receiver.
Yeah, all the time.
That's always it was a catch and whatever. So here and then they had a defensive interference call on the big catch that led to the winning field goal. Why he hardly, you see that much touching on every single play. That defensive back for the Bills didn't do any more than you see on every play. So I mean, every important call in that game went against the Bills.
Yeah, it did. And one of the things that I have to say is, okay, you have one of the greats of all time quarterbacks with Josh Allen in there. Okay. Mm-hmm. But you know what? And I think the one Achilles heel that the Bills have is they put too much. They put too much on him. Okay.
They don't have the weapons around. Now I realize his running back led the league in rushing this year, but the Broncos stymied him at the end of the game. He couldn't do anything. And Josh Allen's a lot like what's his name in Kansas City now. His receivers are just a bunch of, they're okay guys, but there's no playmakers. He used to have Diggs. When Buffalo was at the best, they had Diggs when he was on top of receiver league. Well, Diggs has been gone for a couple of years now, and they really haven't replaced Diggs. You can't even name the Bills receivers. They're like they're the no-name receiving crew or whatever. So he's not, he doesn't have playmakers out there.
He doesn't have playmakers out there, and he can't. And what they constantly put him in the position of winning the game by himself. Okay. And he tries him out, and you saw him breaking down. It was very emotional with him after the game. And I get it.
Even when he does make a big throw, like Brandon Cooks was the guy that got the ball taken away from him for the interception. Brandon Cooks was a first round pick. He was a Pro Bowl player in his day, but Brandon Cooks he's on a new team every time I look or whatever. He's at the end of his career, but he has to go to a guy that's on his last leg, and the guy actually makes a catch or whatever, but then the refs take it away. It's again, I don't want to go on, but again, I don't blame the coach for that. He kind of got fired for the same reason that your guy resided in Pittsburgh. He's very good at getting the team to the playoffs, but he's not good at he can't get beyond that divisional round.
Right. Well, what I'll say is, okay, with
Brandon Cooks was all pro, but how many years ago, whatever,
that's true. Time. That's true.
Brandon Cooks wasn't even on the Bills 6 weeks ago.
Well, Sean McDermott has one thing over Tomlin is he's won a number of playoff games, but he's gotten them to he
can win that first round, but he loses in the division. He lost
second, exactly.
In the AFC Championship game too, or whatever. So anyhow, and the funny thing is, Bill, I hate to turn Still Nation, Bills Nation. The general manager got a promotion in Buffalo. He got team president and general manager. So the guy that doesn't bring enough talent in gets promoted.
They're rewarding. They're rewarding him.
The coach has to. He gets fired. Now, believe me, the Bills are loaded on defense. They had the running back that led the league in rushing and whatever. So I'm not saying there's no talent there, but there's not playmakers at the skill positions at receiver, tight end, whatever,
Exactly.
And even the running back led the league in rushing. They weren't throwing the screen passes. He wasn't making any plays in the passing game.
Exactly. Okay. Now, I also want to bring up, okay, I don't know if you saw it, but I watched the Rams and the Bears. All right. And I got to say this, okay, I have never seen a play, okay, where he's backpedaling. All right, William.
He ran at least 30 yards back, at least
30 yards back. And Ron, if he threw it 70 yards or 75 yards, I think he threw it about 70 or 75 yards. Okay, and it
was a jump pass. He spun around like a top and did a jump pass.
And Ron, it was a perfect pass at the perfect spot of the end zone. That just blew me away.
That kid Williams may have skills nobody else in the league has.
Yeah. Okay. And I thought, okay, with that and them tying it up, I said, they're going to win the game. Okay. This is just like it's written. Okay. They're going to win the game. But then they go and blow it in overtime.
Yeah.
I mean,
And of course, they throw that, they throw the pick, right? They were driving for what would have been the winning score, and they throw the pick.
yeah,
But that's
yeah.
kind of been Williams' MO. I mean, he's only a second-year player, so I'm not being hard on Williams all. But he kind of does a lot of good things in the game, but he does some bad things. He's still young. He's still a young guy, but he may be the best someday, though.
Well, I'll tell you what, the Bears have done like a 180 from a couple of years ago, and they've really turned themselves
Makes
around.
a difference
And
when you get the right coach and the right quarterback.
exactly, okay, you do that. And see, the one thing, okay, there's some other things about the Steelers that I want to talk about. Rooney
You
has
forgot to mention Mike McCarthy's coming in for an interview also.
okay, and you know what? All right, Mike
You know
McCarthy
what?
can
He's kind of another talent type. He won a Super Bowl early in his career, but for the last in his last 10 years of coaching, he just treads water. He's good enough to get a team to the playoffs, but he's not really good enough to win once he gets there.
And you know what I've said already about Mike McCarthy out on social media? I said, don't let the door hit you on the way out after your interview, okay? Because even though he's from Pittsburgh and that's all well and good, you know what? See ya. Okay, he's
He seems like
yesterday's
an
news.
okay guy, so I'm sure he's going to interview real well.
Oh, yeah, he'll interview real well. He'll say all the right things. I hope to God they don't hire him because it would be.
And just I think his last year in Dallas wasn't good, but he had two like 12-5 or 13-4 back-to-back seasons. So he's going to point to that record. But somebody's got in mind, well, they were great records, but what'd you do in the playoffs then once you had that, once you won a division went in there?
Exactly. Now, Rooney
And
has told.
he's a lot like some coaches. He builds a team. He builds a team just good enough to the regular season and get to the playoffs, but he doesn't build good enough to go all the way.
Exactly. Now, Rooney did make an announcement that all the assistant coaches are free to go out and look for other jobs. Okay. In other words, see ya. You're gone. Okay.
Yeah, what the offensive coordinator has also got some already. It's got some.
Yeah, Arthur Smith has already received requests from the Titans and I think the Cardinals to interview for their head coaching positions as well. So
and the Titans are going to hire what they're going to. I forget who it was. They already know who they're hiring.
Yeah, I did see an article about that. And you know what, with him, and here's the one thing that I gotta say, Ron. Okay, whoever is going to step in as a Steelers head coach, all right. Number one, okay. The other thing that the Steelers needed to do, which they didn't do, is Omar Khan needs to be shown the door. Okay, that man has no idea how to draft. He has no idea how to get talented players at their positions. None. Okay.
And if you're a top coaching candidate, you got to tell the owner that I want to pick my GM or what. I don't want the holdover GM.
Exactly. Okay. And there was a big fight. This was back in the day. This is before Tomlin. Okay. With Bill Cowher when he was there. And I think Donahue was a general manager at the time. Okay. There was a huge power struggle. Okay. And Cowher told Rooney, he said this. He was at the point, he says, you know what? I will walk, okay, if you don't get his candidate in as GM, and he did. And I forget who replaced him. Gil Bryan.
You got to have a situation where the coach and GM are working together.
Exactly. And they were not on the same page, okay? But they brought somebody in that did that, and it boosted the Steelers to be able to go on and win the Super Bowl, all right? It made a difference here. And that's the thing, too, okay? If I'm a coaching candidate coming into the Steelers, okay, here's two things that I asked Rooney. I said, number one, I want to be able to work with the general manager, and your general manager right now, are you looking at replacing him? Yes or no? And my second question is, what are you going to do about a franchise quarterback? Not a 1 year or a 2 year wonder. Okay. Are you going to bring in a franchise quarterback who's going to take the team to the next level? Okay. Because, and if I was the candidate, I would say, look, it was a long time between Terry Bradshaw and Ben Roethlisberger, okay? And we had a lot of wannabes there throughout the years. And I can rattle off 15 names to you right now, Mr. Rooney, who came in here for 1 or 2 years, collected a paycheck, and were done, but never even got us to the promised land, okay? What are you going to do about that, all right? Because if you're not, I'm not even going to look. I'm not even going to consider this here, because you're going to be bringing in another 40-year-old player. What's the next thing? Are they going to sign Phillip Rivers, 44 years old, bring him in?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the deal with that?
Not him, but they could probably get Kirk Cousins.
Probably, and I've heard rumors about that as well too. I'm like, good Lord, okay.
I mean, he had to play down the stretch when the young guy got hurt. He did play well down the stretch for the Falcons.
That's true. Now,
but I mean, that doesn't guarantee anything for next year or whatever, And the Falcons have the Falcons have better skill players than the Steelers do on offense.
That's true. Now, one of the things that I did hear was, and I started this talk about 5 years before Roethlisberger retired, is that the Steelers need to draft and prepare a backup quarterback and somebody to come in and take Big Ben's spot when he retires, okay? I had heard, and this was confirmed by multiple sources, okay, that Roethlisberger told Rooney, he said, while I'm still quarterback here, I don't want you drafting somebody that's going to be able to take my place. You get people in that will have less, he literally told them, less skills than I have, so they won't make me look, they'll make me look good, all right? I don't want them to make me look bad, all right? And that's exactly what they did, Ron, okay, to a T, okay? Mason Rudolph, they brought him in. That Duck Hodges, they brought him in. We all know about Trubisky bringing him in. Kenny Pickett, I mean, seriously here. It was just like nobody was going to come in and replace Big Ben, all right? But then I think the wheels started to fall off for Tomlin when Roethlisberger retired. And I think the writing was on the wall for Tomlin to do what he ended up doing, was actually resigning. Now, Tomlin has come out and said he never made a public statement like in front of a microphone. It was just, on a sheet of paper kind of a thing. But one of the things he said, and he said multiple times, that he's not going to search for a head coaching position for a while. He wants to spend time with his family. All right. And kudos to him for that. He was $25 million a year. All right.
He's coached long enough. If he doesn't want to come back,
he doesn't need to work another day in his life. $25 million a year. I mean, seriously, he doesn't need to do that. But and I wish him well in that as far as that's concerned. But I think the thing is, understand, everybody say, oh, that feels so bad for Mike Tomlin, doesn't have a job. He's been making $25 million a year for how many years? Seriously, people?
And that time he's got left in his contract, he's getting paid for it. So he gets paid for sitting home. But Bill, back to your biggest thing, the biggest decision the Steelers have to make now, even beyond head coach, is what are we going to do with quarterback? Are we going to bring in somebody and the free agents aren't good this year? So if you want somebody of quality, you have to trade. Or do we do something draft? Do we find a guy in the late first round, second round, third round that we think we could develop? Do we make a trade up to the top picks and get a guy? That's the biggest decision, is how are we going to solve the quarterback situation?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things.
Trade for a veteran, because again, the free agents, there's nobody really there, or make a move in the draft.
And that's one of the things that these coaching candidates.
We're not going to be able to do it, but if you could trade up to the first pick and get the Heisman Trophy winner from Indiana, that kid, you saw what that kid did last night or whatever.
Yeah, he's money. He's and you know what? And I hate to say this, where he's probably going to go to? He's probably going to go to the
Raiders. Guess who was on the sidelines last night at the game? The Raiders owner Davis and Tom Brady were standing right in the sidelines.
Oh yeah,
get up close and personal. And if Brady says you draft a kid, the owner's going to draft a kid, right?
Yeah, they won't hesitate for that. So, any closing thoughts here, Ron?
Just it's going to be interesting off season. Like I said, a lot of coaches are getting hired already. So I hope the Steelers don't lose out on some of the top candidates. It seems like a lot of defensive coordinators are getting hired, and I don't know if the Steelers need a defensive, oriented head coach again, or maybe an offensive guy. I just don't know, especially with the quarterback. They definitely, if they draft a young guy, they're definitely going to have to get somebody in the organization, a coordinator that's a quarterback whisperer, somebody that could develop a young guy, because we don't think that if Tomlin would have drafted a young guy, that he's not exactly a guy that mentor a young quarterback or whatever.
And I think that's what the talk has been in Pittsburgh, is that they want to draft an offensive-minded head coach instead of a defensive-minded head coach. because they need to really develop that offense.
I'll
Okay.
give you an example, Bill. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who came off a horrible year the year before, they brought this guy Conan. He was the offensive coordinator in Tampa Bay. He helped resurrect Baker Mayfield's career down there. Okay, he takes over. They have what's their quarterback, the Heisman Trophy winner from Georgia, Lawrence.
Yeah.
Lawrence?
Lawrence, yeah.
I forget. Who's been had an up and down career so far. Okay, Cohen gets a hold of him. This guy Lawrence has his career season. He's lights out this year. He's played like he's never played before in the pros. But guess what? Now he had a quarterback whisperer. He had a guy that knows offense, a guy that lives and breathes offense working with him, and that makes all the difference in the world, right, Bill?
Exactly. And I'll kind of echo that as far as the football talk is concerned. The Steelers need to act sooner rather than later, and they are bringing in a number of candidates, which is really good as far as that's concerned. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys up to date on that, and we'll also keep you guys up to date on what's going on with the Avata 360, the Pocket 4, and everything with DJI. It kind of was where things are with that. So guys, as always, again, also Marcus did post the link for Warren's obituary. And if there's contact information, drop something if there's a way to drop something to his family, please do so. I'm sure they would greatly appreciate it from us. That's it, everybody. As always, have a great day. It's always a great day to fly. Take care. Have a great rest of your week.